to the heart of the Midwest. Every firm has one. A Midwest nerd wonk who's truly expert on policy. I tried out the word zeitgeist. Nathan Dean owns the word zeitgeist. He's enjoyed Harry's Chocolate Fountain, West Lafayette, Indiana, on up to the Booth School, and we're honored he could be in the studio with us today. You are the expert on policy. Do we really get a tax bill by July 4th?
So I think it's going to come around that time frame just because I'm going on vacation around then. But more likely than not, it will come before the August recess. What we're telling our clients is that look for Treasury next week to come out with their X date for the debt ceiling. That's the real deadline. Now, our chief rate strategist, Ira Jersey, thinks this is late July, August. So I think July 4th is doable, but you know, I think maybe more mid-July, late July.
To be clear, this would be a House victory, but then they have to deal with the Senate, right?
So it's a little bit different that way. So what Speaker Johnson wants to do is he wants to get the entire House wrapped up by Memorial Day. I don't think that's going to happen. So we're seeing lots of markups this week in the House. You can see lots of things about, you know, $25 billion for a golden dome, if you will. The House is doing all this work. They're going to send it to the Senate. And in my opinion, the Senate's going to say, thank you very much, but we're going to do what we do anyway. And so this is one of the challenges that the Republicans have at the moment is they're going forward with all these House plans, but there are, 54, there's a bunch of Republican senators who are just going to sit there and say, it's great you're doing this, but we need to actually get a little bit more moderate and come up with a better deal that we can pass through our chamber as well.
So what are the key stumbling blocks for actually getting this bill through?
So, obviously, I think the tax side is a little bit less of an issue because if you look at it, you have $3.9 trillion to extend the Trump era tax cuts. You got $1.5 trillion additional, no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime. I think that can pass. It's not a problem. I think
but you have to fund that, right?
That's exactly it. And so there are essentially four pillars to this. I think one is the deficit. The way that this works, we think the deficit is going to increase. The deficit hawks in the House, they're not going to like that. But then when you talk about cuts, you're going to talk Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and Inflation Reduction Act. And what we're telling our clients at the moment is it's much easier to vote to kick the deficit down the road and to increase the deficit than it is to actually vote that pulls away an entitlement or pulls away a provision when it comes to Medicaid, SNAP, or the IRA.
SNAP is welfare, right?
Yes.
Okay.
SNAP is also formerly known as food stamps.
Okay.
And there are a lot of constituencies that we're seeing in the Republican space. The Inflation Reduction Act, for example, 4 Republican senators sent a letter saying, don't touch this. I've got a lot of European CapEx coming into my district.
Well, that gets, Paul, jump in here. We're with Nathan Dean now, and he's the, I say zeitgeist, folks. He is the king of Washington zeitgeist. Paul, please.
Is this going to be just straight party lines here on all of this?
Yes. So what the Republicans are doing is they're using reconciliation, which bypasses the filibuster, no Democrats involved. It's the same way President Obama got Obamacare through, the same way President Biden did the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, the challenge with reconciliation is you're supposed to make it budget neutral, which means for everything that you increase, you have to subsequently decrease. But what the Senate Republicans did is they changed the idea a little bit. And they said, rather than actually trying to make it like for like, let's just presume that the Trump-era tax cuts, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, was current policy. And since it's current policy, we don't have to pay for it. And so, the Senate instructions said it was a $4 billion cut, and that's billion with a B, compared to the House said they're looking to cut around $1.5 trillion.
So where are we? Thune of the Dakotas talked about the debt ceiling. For the mere mortals out there, like my entire audience and me, cut to the chase, the debt ceiling, the Republican disarray. How do we get to Labor Day, Nathan Dean?
So I think what happens with the debt ceiling is President Trump uses the bully pulpit that says, don't derail this.
Does he have the power to do that?
I think so, because he did this during the continuing resolution debate back in March. And when it comes to the debt ceiling...
Right, but the clock's ticking. Let's go cook political report. When does his lame duckedness come in? Because Henrietta Trey's says 63 House seats are in play. Are we there?
I think we get there probably around March or April of next year. That's
really that far out?
I do. Because, the other thing to keep in mind is once this reconciliation bill passes, Congress really doesn't have anything else they're talking about. And so if this bill passes, I'm not exactly sure what else Congress is going to do. You're going to see the deregulation argument, if you will, really kick into gear at that point.
What do you mean they got nothing to do? Don't we have a ton of issues for this country?
Well, yes, but if you think about it, like they do, if they pass the reconciliation bill this year, they do have another bite at the apple next year. But I just don't think they're going to be able to pass anything in a midterm election year. But there are going to be smaller bills out there that we are tracking, but nothing to the grandiose side of economic stimulus or deficit.
All right, so my big takeaway here is this: our debt is going to go up.
I think
They're going to fund this with just a higher debt.
it's one of the scenarios that we're looking at. I do think that the debt deficit, if you will increase as a result of this.
It's no different than we've seen any other time, is it?
Well, I mean, but to the White House perspective, though, they'll say, look, we're going to bring in more money from tariffs. We're going to have economic growth. We're going to have other ways to actually offsets this. So, but again, those statements are a little bit harder to quantify.
We don't care. The only reason you're in our studio is for the question. Nationwide, people want to know, is the federal taxpayer paying for the new football stadium of the Washington Commanders?
I looked at the Commanders deal yesterday, and
I know you did.
I love the idea of that glass stadium that looks directly at the Capitol. So sign me up. But what I'll say is I don't think the federal taxpayer is going to pay for that. But what I will say is that, generally speaking, I don't think for many individual taxpayers, their tax status is going to change between this year and next year. That is the number one goal for the Republicans, is to essentially extend this so that taxes don't go up at the end of the year. But I will say, for the folks that are listening right now in New York, Connecticut, your SALT deduction currently capped at $10,000. I think it's more likely 25 to 30 after this deal closes.
Second question:
Matt Miller.
With all the tragedy of the crash at Reagan, and every day it's in the news and all that, are we actually going to get used to going out to Dulles to fly more? Is there going to be a shift from national out to Dulles by the Washington community?
I don't think so. I mean, they have this private road that I actually live off of, and so I can get to Dulles in 20 minutes and skip all the traffic. And Congress loves that road, but they also love a shorter taxi ride to Reagan. So I think Reagan is, and they're building new terminals in both areas.
There you go.
Great.
It's news you can use down there in D.C.
What do you do besides look at policy? I mean, I'm in awe. Seriously, folks, Nathan Dean's knowledge of the zeitgeist is just extraordinary. How do you do it?
I coached third grade flag football, and that gives me enough headaches that the policy's the easy stuff.
It's easy. Nathan Dean, thank you so much. Out of Purdue and Booth. He's this lodestone in Washington. I really can. Nathan Dean walks into Ben's Chili Bowl up on U Street, and the whole place just stops. I mean, it's his influence in Washington. It is an honor.